this webinar for Value Pricing 2.0 and beyond. We are going to be talking today about sort of my experiences implementing value pricing in my own practice. Today's presentation is roughly 90 minutes long. I have Carlos, my brother, and also my coach. He's been my coach for about 13 years since I started my business. He's pivoted a little bit in the last couple of years to coaching all sorts of accountants. So we can finally collaborate and sort of build content together. So I'm extremely excited to now have Team Garcia out there helping people with these sort of topics, and not just me, because I felt like a sort of a lone warrior in this process. So Carlos, I'll introduce him a little bit later on, but just so you know, that's my brother and coach, Carlos, and you're going to be pretty amazed on some of the content that he's put together for today. So 90 minutes will be today's webinar. 5 minutes, probably just 1 minute, I'm going to plug something called the AltAccountant Plus membership, which is Carlos's and I idea of how we can scale this type of coaching and mentorship. Carlos has been coaching and mentoring individual accountants and tax preparers for a couple of years, but these things are very time consuming. They take a lot of hours. It's a lot of attention required, and we want to help more people kind of transform their thinking. And Carlos and I have put together this presentation. This is actually part of a full day presentation we did for a couple of accountants a couple of months ago, and we're giving you the 90-minute version. The 90-minute version of the full presentation. So we're going to skip some slides and we're going to sort of just focus on those. So we'll spend just a minute talking about that. Then we're going to talk about what the accounting profession is ignoring. What I think that are the things that we are letting it pass right in front of our eyes, right under our noses, and we're sort of not noticing what's going on. And I think it's really, really important to bring into fruition these issues that we are ignoring as a profession. We'll spend a good 15, 20 minutes on that. Then we're going to talk about the value pricing business model. We'll spend another 15 minutes on that. So just kind of get an idea for what value pricing is and what value pricing 2.0 is, which is the subscription model. Then we're going to talk about charging for a diagnostic. You're going to really, really going to like that part, because we're going to sort of make really good sense of for the case that we need to charge for diagnostic, pick your brain, quick call type of sessions. And we're going to give you some tools to do that. Then we're going to talk about what I feel is the number one problem with accounting pros today, based on other polls that I've done. Some of the answers on the poll on this webinar also give me indication that this is one of the biggest problems, if not the biggest, one of the biggest, which is selling the price increase. I think that this year, what most accountants are having issues with, the feedback I've gotten from my colleagues, the feedback that Carlos has gotten from his colleagues, is selling the price increase has been the most difficult thing. Then we'll talk about a couple of quick steps. I'm going to give you a whole bunch of resources that you can study, read, and just kind of like next steps that you can do on your own. And then we'll leave it completely open for Q&A for those 15 minutes. So I hope you're here through the whole 90 minutes. And I'm going to do two things. One, we're going to plug the AltAccountant Plus membership, and we'll talk more about it towards the end. But the most important thing, I'm committed to bringing value on this, even though we do want to sell a mentorship program for people that want to take these concepts and expand upon them to the next level. So our AltAccountant membership is going to be a $200 a month membership program. You can cancel anytime. We're probably going to have a small group, maybe 50, 100, and we're going to call Elite Accounting Pros. These are the people that actually invest in improving themselves in their knowledge. They're going to be learning from me and from Carlos directly. I'm going to be doing monthly lessons with sort of a big overarching homework, sort of a self-discovery homework, which has to do with my AltAccountant philosophy I created a couple of years ago. And then you have live group coaching with Carlos, who's our first AltAccountant certified coach, and others that we're going to bring in along the way, other friends and colleagues. And we're going to give you live feedback. Carlos will give you live feedback about your ideas on how to implement the AltAccountant philosophy. You're also going to be able to present your ideas to the AltAccountant Plus members. We're going to have this thing called open mic. So if you have an idea, a concept, a question that you want to bring to the community, we will have that. And we'll also be able to create small private mastermind groups, 4, 5, 6 people that you guys will meet on your own and bounce ideas of each other. So this is the vision that we have for the AltAccountant program. Topics include value pricing, positioning, productizing, innovation, practice management, and overall transforming to a value-driven mindset. It's altaccountant.com, and the first 40 people will get 40% of lifetime, being the sort of the first group that becomes part of this. So the first 40 sign up, and then after 40 sign up, we won't have that 40% discount anymore. There's the coupon code. We will spend more time on that in the back end of the webinar. Let's get right to the content and the stuff that you're eager to learn today. First thing I want to start with, and this is going to be a quote, which is, stress comes from ignoring the things that shouldn't be ignored. Carlos, who said that?
Jeff Bezos.
Jeff Bezos. And why is this important to us? Carlos, what do you think is why do we start with talking about stress and ignoring things that shouldn't be ignored?
Well, I think that a lot of it is the conversations that are happening in our head. Potentially, there's some fear, anxiety, and managing that emotional discipline of those uncomfortable, potential confrontational conversations or situations. And typically they're interpersonal related, right? It's a difficult conversation. It's an awkward conversation that I need to have with a team member, with a customer, with a colleague, a partner, and leaving it off behind ends up being expensive.
Absolutely.
And painful.
And those awkward conversations is one of the AltAccountant sessions that we have planned to go deep dive into who are we having these conversations with, what are these conversations about, why are they awkward, and how to turn them into non-awkward simply by building the skill of unawkwardness, for the lack of a better term. Now, the inspiration to kind of start the presentation with talking about awkward conversations comes from a Ignition survey. So in the slides, there's a link. You can download the survey. It's a couple of pages. It's a wonderful survey that Practice Ignition did. They asked 500 accountants, what are the problems in the practice per se? And 89% of them said that they have delayed or avoided having an awkward conversation with a client. What is this delay of having awkward conversations? And these awkward conversations are price increase, there's scope creep. Sometimes there are clients doing the wrong thing, and we don't have the heart to tell them, stop paying for your boat out of the business account, that sort of thing. Although many accountants are pretty good at that, but we're not really good at insisting, which is what gives us stress. But in the long run, avoiding the awkward conversation or ignoring it is what's going to give us stress. And what I want this to be, I want this program to be, I want this philosophy to be, I want this teaching to be, what I want this transformation to be, is I want it to be the great de-stressor of our profession, the great the anxiety reliever of our profession. I go through a lot of anxiety and stress, and I've gone through a lot of it, and it would have been worse if I didn't value price and I didn't have a value driven mindset. And I can only imagine how stressful this can be for you. But if you look at the stat in the bottom here, 43% of accountants and bookkeepers say that the quality of their work has suffered because of avoiding these awkward conversations. And 44% of the staff says that they're overworked as a result of avoiding these awkward conversations. So what we want to do is bring to light what are the things that create these awkward conversations. So what are we ignoring? Number one, a broken business model. A business model that is effort-driven, form-driven, hourly-driven, the one where we as accountants, and I want you to think about this in your head. When a new client comes to you or a new project comes to you, and the client's laying out with you the entire scope, bank statements, credit cards, PayPal accounts, QuickBooks file. In your mind, are you accounting for how long this is going to take you? Or are you accounting how much value are you going to bring to solve this problem for the customer? Are you accounting in your head the time that it will take you, or are you accounting in your head how much the customer's investment in you will multiply in their head in terms of value for them? So if your mentality is, I'm accounting for in my head, I'm accounting for how long this is going to take me, then you are, unfortunately, your mind is completely trapped in the broken business model of measuring time, of measuring effort. So that's the primary thing, is a broken business model. Number two, we're ignoring that software companies are making the claim that artificial intelligence and automation are replacing the work of an accounting professional. And it is true, it can replace keystrokes, but software and artificial intelligence can never replace judgment, can never replace experience, can never replace that feeling, that weird feeling in your stomach that you get when the customer tells you something that is just not accurate, or they're making up on the spot, or they're trying to give you the right answer per se when there's clearly a wrong answer behind it. Software can't do that. Artificial intelligence can detect that. Automation is really going to continue to push the same BS that the customer feeds the software. So accounting professionals are not here to do keystrokes. Our work cannot truly be automated, but we're ignoring that all these software companies and technology companies are doing a really good job at selling the concept to the end users that this is possible. And this is commoditizing our work. So we need to come up with the language, we need to come up with the words, we need to come with the approach, we need to come up with our version of the story that changes the paradigm or prevents the paradigm shift that software companies and automation and robotic process automation, artificial intelligence, machine learning, all this mumbo jumbo that they're saying to supposedly replace the quality of our work. The other piece that we're ignoring is we are in an instant gratification society, right? Our customers, especially like Gen Z and millennials and that sort of thing, they were born with a phone in their hand. They were born with pressing 3 buttons. Well, not born, but pretty much they became an adult with this reality that they press a couple of buttons in their phone and the answer is there. And in accounting, there's no equivalent to that. Like customers can say, hey, how much money did I make last year? And you can just simply give a quick answer. There's nuance to that answer. Well, what do you mean by make? Cash basis, accrual basis. What do you mean by make? You know, are we looking at QuickBooks? Are we looking at your spreadsheet? What do you mean by make? Sales or net income, a taxable income or GAAP income? So what ends up happening is that there really isn't a quick answer or the equivalent of a of what the phones and the cloud is doing for instant gratification and expectation setting for our customers, and we're ignoring that this is happening right before our eyes. We're also ignoring worldwide competition. We're ignoring the fact that the world is getting smaller, that post-COVID, people are more and more comfortable with giving a stranger over the internet, over Zoom, sensitive bank information. We're ignoring the fact that all of a sudden we compete with people worldwide, and we're forgetting to create a brand for the local accountant, the value of the local accountant, the value of the US-based accountant, the value of an accountant in your same state or in your same community, that sort of thing. We're also losing talent. We're ignoring the fact that we're losing accountants to tech companies. And as much as you think in the short term that's a good thing for us, because the less accountants, the harder it is to find an accountant, and for lack of a better term, there's more demand than supply. But in the long term, there's going to be a problem because we cannot grow. We cannot grow without having talent right under us that we're building. We cannot grow without building a bench. So where are we getting our talent from? So we're losing talent. Our talent pool is getting very small. There's also unrealistic salary expectations. I don't know if you have interviewed a young, fresh out of college person that has 1 year of experience doing bookkeeping or accounting. The salary expectations are completely out of touch with the pricing that we have, the current pricing that we have in our services, and what customers are expecting to pay for professional services. So the big four and the tech companies, or the companies that have all this extra cash flow from other activities, are completely defacing the reality of what the salary expectation should be for somebody working in a small business accounting firm. And the expectation gap, our customers are expecting us to work faster, more hours, longer hours, and to be more available than we're, quite frankly, willing to give. We need to have some sort of, life work balance, that sort of thing. And I'd probably say the one that's most 2020 out of them all is the rising internal costs. These software companies moving to the cloud is increasing our rates, okay? Payroll companies are increasing our rates. The tools that we use for our jobs, our workflow management tools, the apps, software applications, even computers are getting more expensive for some weird reason. So all the things that we need to do our job, it's getting more expensive on top of the salary. So the rising internal costs are rising faster than the price increases that we're doing for existing clients. So we're ignoring this, and this is causing a lot of stress. We're getting stressed, we're getting underpaid, and we're getting overworked. Now, I am not proposing here that I have the solution to all these things, but I want to tell you that there is a path, okay? There's a way through it, not out of it, but there's a way through it. And that's what I would like to focus on. So let's talk about business models that most professions, that most of the profession is adopting now, which is either an hourly billing or a time-based billing by the day, by the hour, or an output-based, which a lot of tax preparers charge by the form. So, okay, you have one Schedule A, is $25. You have 3 Schedule E's, is this much. And when we do output-based billing, that's just hourly billing in disguise. The firms of the future, the firms that are going to sustain this major change and disruption that is happening to our profession, are either going to be doing value-based pricing, or what Ron Baker calls value pricing 2.0, which is a subscription business model. I will confess to you that I am currently in value pricing. My practice is in value pricing. I have some components of my business, some educational aspects of our business, some email support access of our business that we have in subscription. So I've been moving some parts to subscription, but I have not turned my practice into a subscription model. It will happen within the year. And part of the AltAccountant program is to walk you guys through my process of transforming my firm into what my firm is called QBK Accounting, into what is going to be called in 2024 per se, or late 2023, QBK Accounting Plus. So I'm thinking, the major question I'm thinking is, what if Disney were to buy my company and turn my company into my company plus, like a Disney Plus? So these are the things I'm asking in my head, and this is the transition I'm going through. But prior to, from me going to my transition into subscription-based model, into value pricing 2.0, I want to teach you value pricing, because value pricing by itself, it's going to be the default. If subscription doesn't work, I go right back to value pricing, because value pricing was transformative for my practice. It changed the way I looked at the entire world. I'll go to the supermarket and I look at the milk aisle, and I look at the different versions of milk and where they're physically positioned and how they're priced and the package sizes. And I think about pricing strategy. I think about customer perception. I think about customer segmentation. I see the world through the eyes of pricing. So it really, really changed, sort of shaking me to the core. And I want to teach it to the world. And I can do webinars and I can do videos, but in many cases, we kind of have to do it together. Like we have to go through exercises together. I need you to do some homework. I need Carlos to walk you through stuff. I need to hear to see how you're feeling about it. We need to give you feedback. And what I mean by beyond is, look, before the subscription model, we couldn't even imagine the subscription model. So could there be a value pricing 3.0? Yes, it could. It will. We don't know when, but I'm also open-minded that there might be something else to shake me to the core. Now, Ron Baker's book, which I'm going to strongly recommend, I read the manuscript about 2 months ago, was written by Paul Don and Ron Baker, which I happened to meet in person a couple of years ago. So I'm super excited to show you a picture of I was in the lion's den and I talked to the one of the two greatest mentors to the accounting profession, which is Ron Baker and Paul Don. They wrote this book called Time's Up, which talks about that transition into the subscription model. They talk about value pricing in there as well, but more within the context of the transition to that. This book is released in December. So I recommend you take a look at that if you want to order it. I pre-ordered it, and if you pre-order it, you go into their pre-lunch party, so you get to chat with them in Zoom, which again, Ron Baker is one of my biggest heroes. He completely changed the way I look at the profession myself. So I was able to hang out with my partners in Chicago to do a special private conference with them too, and it was life-changing. Ed Kless was there too. I'm also a big fan of him. So I'm going to give you a quick summary of the shift between value pricing and subscription, and we're going to leave it there because we're going to sort of go back to value pricing because I don't want to talk about moving to subscription when I haven't done it myself. I'm telling you, I've been experimenting with it. I'm working through it, but right now I'm going to teach you 6 years worth of value pricing experience, and I want to convince you to, if you're not doing it now, or if you're doing it wrong, to do it or look at the way I'm doing it for some sort of inspiration. So value pricing, the most important concept of value pricing is price the customer, not the service. When we price the service, we go by the hour. Price the customer, not the service. I would probably say, if we could summarize the value pricing business model, is price the customer, not the service, which basically means the customer gets a desired outcome at a predictable price for a premium. That's the entire premise. That's, in 2 lines, value pricing. Now, the subscription model, or value pricing 2.0, it's price the relationship, not the customer. So you see, Ron Baker had an evolution in thinking where he thought it stopped there. You price the customer, not the service. Now he's saying we price the relationship, not the customer, which means customers now subscribe to our firm, just like we subscribe to Disney with Disney Plus. I didn't subscribe to Cinderella or the Seven Dwarfs or Marvel or whatever. I subscribe to Disney and have access to the entire library of, or the entire capabilities of streaming content through Disney by subscribing to Disney Plus. That's what subscription is. How can you Disney Plus your practice? And I've had so many deep thinkings around this, and the closest I've gotten to, and I'll give you a little insight of my thinking, the closest I got into, and I think that's the way we're going to implement it, is I'm going to treat my company like a Costco. If you've ever been to Costco, you need to be a member just to go inside, which means you don't know the prices of things before you're a member. And I'm thinking that you got to be a member of my firm. You have to be a subscriber of my firm to be able to even get a price quote for a service. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine you telling your customer, hey, I can't give you a price quote, you're not a member of our firm? And customers go, whoa, what? So I'm thinking in my head, what do I need to do to be able to say that with confidence, without stumbling, but saying it in such a way that it feels normal? Carlos, what are some of your perspectives about, or what do you see to be, okay, subscription for accountants, subscription in general? What are the things that come to mind?
Well, it's first, it's elevation of the mindset, right? And making it a new normal, making yourself exclusive to a segment of customers that you are willing to work with. It also allows the customer to know, it goes back to the concept of anchoring too, right? It's like taking the anchoring to a different level, right? When you think about anchoring, you start with a specific price. Now the customer uses that as their initial reference. When you're anchoring membership, now you're saying, you need to have a special, pass in order to even have a conversation with me. So it is a shift of mindset.
Yeah, no, it is crazy. Like, every day I wake up, I mean, I'm not lying to you. Every day I wake up and I think, how am I gonna pull this off? But I have to. I already told my partners, I've already told my employees, I already told Carlos, you gotta help me through this. I want to be the Costco/Disney Plus of accounting, and I'm thinking about both things at the same time. Okay, so again, I'll walk. Trust me, you will know about my transition. I will be doing videos and podcasts. You will hear me talking about it, but I'm actually gonna explain the entire process in the AltAccountant program, as I can sort of explain what I go through, and we'll do little exercises here and there. But what I do want, because the only way I see this possible is to be value driven first. Because you kind of have to be value driven. You have to understand value from the perspective of the customer before you can even implement any new transformation. So I think successfully implementing value pricing, or it doesn't have to be value pricing, but a value driven mindset, a value driven business model, then it should make it really easy, because I'm in a really good position wherever I create so much value for my customers, for my community, for everyone else, that it's going to be easier for me because I can lead with that. But I would not be in the position to do this if the profitability from running a value price firm wasn't there to give me the free time to think about and dedicate to market my brand and my credibility and my authority. So does that make sense? So it's sort of a chicken and an egg situation, where transitioning to subscription is going to require you to build a lot of capacity in your firm first. It means you have to invest in capacity first to then bring in the customers to be able to serve them. But to build capacity, you have to build some wealth. You have to be able to make some money and build some money. And the daily grind of hourly billing typically doesn't render the level of profits that allow you to invest in a transformative business model, or such a radical business model like the subscription business model. That being said, if Carlos were to ask me, and Carlos asks me this question all the time as we do like sort of these coaching exercises, Carlos asks me all the time, hey, if you could do it all again, go back to 2008 and do it all again, what would you do different? And then I would say a gazillion percent, I would say I would start with a subscription-based business model. I would skip value pricing. I would go straight to subscription babies, and my practice would be different. It would be different. The offering would be different. What we do is different. The type of client would be different, period. Okay, so let's talk about transforming your business model and having these awkward conversations, or requiring us to talk about these awkward conversations. So there are 10 types of awkward conversations, and this is actually Carlos and I original content. This doesn't come from any book. This is how we surmised. Like, this is us. What's an awkward conversation, and who do we have it with? Is these 10. We're gonna have an awkward conversation with ourselves. We're gonna have an awkward conversation with productivity, or what it means to be, quote, productive. We're gonna have an awkward conversation with our teams. We're gonna have an awkward conversation with our colleagues, an awkward conversation with our prospects, an awkward conversation with our current customers, an awkward conversation with our saboteurs, Carlos's favorite topic, an awkward conversation with our technology, which includes the software companies that we buy software from, right? We're gonna have an awkward conversation with our data. These are the insights that we get from the performance of our operations, and an awkward conversation with the future. But now I challenge you to change the word awkward to courageous. We're gonna have a courageous conversation with ourselves, a courageous conversation with productivity, a courageous conversation with current customers. Because if you change the word from awkward to courageous, which means the same thing, right? Having an awkward conversation, like bringing up, bringing forth the energy and the confidence to have that awkward conversation, the frank, transparent awkward conversation with the client requires courage. So no longer say it's an awkward conversation, now say it's a courageous conversation. So there's 10 of them. We don't have enough time to go even 10 of them. This will be one of the AltAccountant sessions we're gonna dive pretty deep into. But let's talk about having a courageous conversation with ourselves. So the first courageous conversation with ourselves is, are we truly value driven or are we effort driven? And as I mentioned earlier, when your customers talk to you about their problem, what is happening in your head? Are you opening up a spreadsheet and accounting for how many transactions, how much time? Or are you thinking, how am I going to multiply the money the customer is going to give me in value? Are you thinking, what is this worth to them? What is this worth to them? What is this worth to them? Is your brain going straight to, what is this worth to them? Or is it going straight to, what does this cost me? And until you make that shift, it can't be value driven. So that's probably the principal awkward or courageous conversation you have with yourself, which essentially is a mindset shift. Also, courageous conversation with yourself. Are you willing to say no in order to enable bigger yeses? Are you able to say a lot of no's to enable bigger yeses? Are you able to say a lot of no's to enable big rewarding yeses? Because getting a bigger client, a more profitable client is one thing. Landing the client of your dreams or building the relationship of your dreams, it's priceless. Like me calling Ron Baker a friend, it's priceless. Or a mentor, it's priceless. And I'm not saying that I pay him to be my mentor. I'm saying he's my mentor because I learned from him, and he doesn't teach to me, he teaches at the world. I just choose to. I just choose to take these teachings and implement them. So again, it's a mindset shift. It's a courageous conversation you have with yourself. Courageous conversation with your prospects. Carlos, ask me the question. Do you have an hourly rate question? So you got to have this courageous conversation. Go, Carlos.
So what is your hourly rate?
I don't have one.
What do you mean?
I don't have an hourly rate. I give you a price based on what the work is. I guarantee the outcome. If you don't get the outcome, I give you your money back. That's it. You got to have that conversation with your prospects. You got to have that courageous conversation with your prospect. What's your hourly rate? I don't have one. Why not? Because I look at the work, I give you a price, I guarantee the outcome. If the outcome's not there, I give you your money back. Done. I don't have one. Done. Courageous conversation to have with your prospects. Stop giving hourly rates. That's not a thing. An hourly rate is a thing for a different profession, which I don't want to mention. A different profession that does really, really good at it. I don't want to mention it, okay? But that's not who we are, okay? We don't have an hourly rate, okay? It flips the conversation upside down. It stops that, okay? Especially because the problem with the hourly rate question is that they really don't want to know what the hourly rate is. Your customers want to know what the fixed rate is. But they ask for the hourly rate so they can plug it in the spreadsheet to then figure out how much time it's going to take. Because the same, Carlos, the same question is, how long will it take you to do my bookkeeping, right? I mean, you've heard that. I know you do. I know you do Zoom calls, sales calls with other accountants. Are those the two top questions? What's your hourly rate? How long will it take you to do X?
Yeah, exactly right. You know, what is your hourly rate? How long is this going to take? When is it going to be finished?
Right. So how long is it going to take? Is what is this thing going to cost me in disguise? What is your hourly rate? Is what is this thing is going to cost me in disguise? Your clients are asking the wrong question, but they don't know how to answer the right questions because we're not courageous enough to change the conversation. Okay. And people typically come back with, well, you know, if I don't know your hourly rate, how do I know if I can afford you? You say that's probably another very common one. So if I don't know your hourly rate, I can afford you. And then you can say, well, good news. You will know if you can afford me because I'm going to give you a fixed rate. That's it. That's simple. Okay. Now, courageous conversation with your current customers. This is the price increase. Mr. Customer, we need to increase your price. Or Mr. Customer, starting January, we're going to have a price increase. This is a very courageous conversation, and because it's awkward, because none of your customers ever want to pay more. Because on the 8th day, God created customers, and he said, you shall always fight about the price. Okay? This is a rule of customers. And you know what? These are the best customers because these are fiscally responsible customers. I'm an accountant. I'm fiscally responsible. My job is to safeguard my customer's assets. If your customer is safeguarding their assets, that's a good customer. Customers complaining or giving you pushback about increasing prices doesn't mean they're a bad customer. What it means is that they need to know, they need to feel good about the price increase. And the only way they feel good about the price increase is that you can talk, articulate, explain, and defend the value that you create for them.
Hector, I'll just add that most people, they just want to feel like they're getting a fair deal. And if you can articulate that through your value pricing model, then you've got, and it's much better to get someone to fight you and push back on a price than having them say, let me think about it, right? Because if you're hearing them say, let me think about it, or I'll get back to you, or send me more information, then there might have been something in that conversation that was missing, that wasn't clear enough.
Exactly. And I'm going to skip a couple of slides because, like I said, this is a whole day presentation into a 90-minute presentation. But I want to talk to you about one of the really important tools to converting awkward conversations to courageous conversations is to ask questions. Ask questions that come from a place of true inquiry, a place of curiosity. So a bad question to ask is, why do you do it that way? And the problem that this is a bad question to ask, and I'm not saying, and I'm not condemning the specific question, I'm condemning the approach to question asking. Why do you do it that way? Might feel like a judgment in disguise. Okay? Why do you do it that way? Might feel like I am complaining, like I am not happy with the way you're doing it, and I'm judging and I'm passing judgment on the way you're doing it. If you want to turn the same question into a good question from a place of curiosity, we say, have you considered doing this differently? It's the same question. Why do you do it that way? Have you considered doing it differently, or have you considered an alternative route or an alternative? Is the same question, but one actually is not necessarily accusatory or judgy. It's more of like, hey, let's think through this. Let's explore this concept. So just sometimes a couple of words here and there completely change, again, from awkward to courageous. Okay? Now, Carlos, I'm gonna let you take over this slide real quick. I want you to introduce the concept of selling the price increase. This is, I think, your favorite book for the year. So can you give us a quick summary of what you think about this book and why you're recommending it?
Yeah, and just to frame up again what Hector was sharing is that we know that today's reality, we're faced with rising costs. I think everybody has felt the impact of what inflation has had on the everyday consumer and the small business owner, as well as even large corporations. I know many of you have received probably emails to your subscriptions. Netflix has changed their pricing. You know, all the other streaming services have changed their pricing. Some of you get an email, some of you get a text message. And for those who have closer community relationships with small businesses, it might be a phone conversation. So this book really gives you a basic framework of what are some of the key elements of successfully communicating, preparing for a price increase, and to minimize the impact of losing customers. And in addition, to also not only keep up with the rising costs, but also elevate your firm and elevate the quality of work and the value that you bring to your customers. And so if we look at the summary, it breaks it down into 4 specific concepts. The first one, believe it or not, and I know many of you will probably believe it, is managing your own emotional discipline, right? Which means it's how do we overcome the conversation that we're having with ourselves in our head. And that's where Hector was referencing your saboteurs, basically are the little voices in your head that are telling you you can't, or maybe becoming, there's an analytical or the sympathetic one to the customer, so all these obstacles that are getting in our own heads that are preventing us from even having the conversation. And so how do we dominate that? The next one is, how do you justify the price increase? By making a business case, which is taking a look at the way that your firm is pricing your customers on your services, and who are your high profit, high maintenance, low profit customers, and how do you prepare for that conversation? And then you've got planning for the increased conversation, which is what will give you a small snippet from that concept. And then how do you protect so you can have long-term, profitable, and meaningful customer relationships? So in essence, that's what the book summarizes. And if I believe, Hector, if we go into the next slide, we've got a little poll that we can ask the group. And so here we got a poll for you, which is, for you, what are the top reasons why you think why your firm avoids the price increase? I know it is a personal question, but we'd really love to get an idea of what is the top reason. So we've got fear of losing customers. Is it lacking the skills or the language of how to have the conversation? Is it maybe because the relationship is so long, you're so tied to you kind of feel bad for the customer, they've done so much for you, they've been there with you since the beginning, whatever that is, the sympathetic to the customer situation. Maybe they are in a tough position financially, so they can't afford a price increase, difficulty in quantifying or justifying the value, or your employees feeling the prices, or if it's something else. So we'll give that a minute.
So this is according to the book, this is some concepts from the book. These are sort of the top reasons. And in many of these, some of these are internal, some of them are external, fearing of losing customers. It's really an internal, the fears and losing the customer is an external thing, right? The customer decides to leave you. That's an external reason. But the fear of losing it is an internal reason. So the solution to that one is you got to walk in being okay with losing the customer. You cannot have a good price increase conversation unless you have already wrestled and accepted the fact that the customer might say no, and that needs to be okay. And that needs to be okay. Now, we don't want to lose the revenue, but we gotta walk in with that needs to be okay. Because the problem is if we don't, the nervousness kicks in, the saboteurs kick in, somebody call it the stench of desperation kicks in, right? And customers feed off of that. Like wild animals, they smell it. They smell that you're bluffing, right? They smell that they can push back. They smell that you're not gonna not accept their check anymore or their credit card anymore just because you say so.
And being in a confident, calm state for the conversation is so important because, like you said, the customer can read that energy and they are going to take advantage of it if they sense any type of lack of confidence and all that. So
yeah, Carlos is so much better at explaining these things. So lack of skills and language on how to have that conversation. Good news is this can be learned, this can be practiced, and unfortunately, like all things, you got to have a couple of them before you master them. Just like the value conversation for value pricing, you have to have a couple of them before you master them. So it's going to feel awkward the first 5, and they'll feel very courageous the next 5 and beyond. Okay. Sympathetic to your customer situations. Hey, look, you have to say, I understand. Okay. I get it. Trust me, we're all in the same boat, but this is something that we have to do. And we'll work with you. If you can't afford the price increase, then let's keep on the same price, but let's talk about a smaller scope, right? So that's really the trick on that. Justifying or quantifying the value. And I think, Carlos, we're going to talk about that a little bit later on as you give us one little snippet of sort of like your interpretation of the accounting industry version of how this book teaches it. So we're gonna skip a couple. Like I said, we weren't gonna cover all the slides here. But what value pricing really is at the end is transforming your business model, slowing down the sales process, taking less customers and doing more, understanding the why, and that's bold because I'm gonna touch on that really quickly. Quantifying outcomes, what we call the value, right? Quantifying the outcome, offering choices at fixed prices, de-risking the customer, and making more profits so you can reinvest in innovation, and innovation, it creates more customer value. There needs to be a positive cycle of profits, reinvestment in innovation, and value creation. But this is the most important things. Is a technique, and we're moving back to value pricing here, not price increase anymore, but we'll go back to price increase. But the 4 most important questions you can ask a client, especially a prospect, that comes in with a self-diagnosis that says, hey, I need you to fix my inventory, okay? Or I need you to fix my QuickBooks file, or I need to convert from QuickBooks Desktop to QuickBooks Online. Whatever self-diagnosis comes, you're gonna ask essentially at its core 4 type of questions. One is, why this? Why now? Why us or why me? And why not just let it be? So why this means, why do you think that converting from QuickBooks Desktop to QuickBooks Online is the solution for you? And they'll give you an answer. I want to go to the cloud. I want to go mobile. I have employees remote, whatever. And you say, and why is that important to you? Well, because I don't have to log in remotely to a desktop, because my salespeople can now be out in the field selling and not doing admin work. And why? Why is it important for them to spend, double the amount of time in the field? Well, they can give me more sales. So what ends up happening is you start asking why this enough. You get to the bottom line, which is, I need my salespeople selling. So they started with, I want to convert from QuickBooks Desktop to QuickBooks Online, which sounds like an accounting question, but the real problem is I need my salespeople selling in the field. So I need quick access to stuff. So once you understand that, and you sort of peel the onion, then you understand the motivations, and then you start gauging, would this conversion even help us get there? Is there an alternative way to get there? That sort of thing. Why now is a great question to ask. Why now? Because, hey, this has been happening for 6 months, or you could have done this 3 years ago. Why now? Why is now the right time? And why now is important because you will get a good gauge for how much in a hurry they are. If there's a deadline, I'm going to sell my company, I'm going to get a divorce, I'm going to bring in a new partner. And there are things, like tax season does this, getting a bank loan does this, bringing investors does this. All these things, external pressures, can press upon people's urgency and why they want it now. And you need to know and understand this, because if they don't tell you they have this pressure for time, and when you engage with them, they say, yeah, take your time, but then really deep inside, there is pressure for time, that's going to come through. That is going to come through, and it's going to be a disastrous issue. Why us means you need to build the courage to ask the client, why do you think I can help with this? Or where did you learn about us? Who referred you to us that made you so sure that, or gave you so much confidence or trust in us that we're the ones that can help you? And if you're afraid to ask that, because the customer answer is, well, I saw you in Google Maps and you're 5 minutes from my house, then you have a positioning problem. And when you have a positioning problem, that means that you are one of many. That means you are number 3 on the list of phone calls of 10 more where they're gonna pick the lowest price. So you need to be able to build the courage to ask, why me, why us? And you will not do that until you have unique positioning, where you're known for doing something really, really well, and you're attracting that customer that values that something really, really well. So the more you have this conversation, the more you realize how much you have to work in your marketing and your positioning. And we'll discuss that in the AltAccountant. Positioning is one of those really great things I like to teach my colleagues. And the last one, and this is not from Alan Weiss, this is more like one that we have adopted, which is, why not just let it be? Like, many times customers come to us with this dire problem, and when you really think about it, that's not really a problem. What would be the consequence of doing nothing, letting it be, not doing anything, looking the other way and doing something else? And you want the customer to tell you, you know what, I can't let it be because I feel this is going to bankrupt me. Bankrupt is in your mind. Why? And you dig and dig and deep until you get the real root cause of the problem. This is called the 5-year-old logic of question building, which is you ask why until that person cannot answer anymore. they get fed up with answering. Okay, my 5-year-old will ask me why. And when I go, I don't know the last answer, they stop. But they dug so deep. 5-year-olds are astute enough that they know that with one word, they can get the person talking, and in many ways, digging their own hole. So you want customers to dig their own hole in a positive way. You want them to open up and be vulnerable so you can help them, not dig their own hole so you can bury them, dig their own hole so you can help them come out of it, right? So you got to ask the why questions. And I love these questions. And once you master these, you get so much better at the value conversation. So we did this exercise. What's your hourly rate? Carlos, let's just do this exercise real quick because I think it's really valuable. Let's do it similar as before.
Yeah. Hey, Hector, I saw you on the website and I'm interested in getting some of my bookkeeping cleanup work. And I wanted to know, what's your hourly rate?
$250 an hour.
Why so much? It's just bookkeeping.
I create a lot of value. I'm better than others. We do really accurate work. I have a lot of experience. I've been doing this for a very long time. It's awkward. It's awkward. Okay. There's no good follow-up answer to why so much. It's just bookkeeping. All right, let's try something else.
All right. Well, hey, Hector, saw you on the website. I'm interested in some bookkeeping services. What is your hourly rate?
I don't have one.
Okay. What do you mean?
I will look at the work. We agree on a desired outcome. I will give you a price. If I don't deliver the outcome, you don't pay. Or I'll give you your money back because we charge up front.
That sounds a little too good to be true. But so what's the catch?
We start with a paid diagnostic. I take a look at what you have now and where you're at. I will give you my professional opinion with all my experience and expertise in your specific industry of all you need to do to catch up and stay compliant. That's going to be a written plan. That plan will be the same whether I do it or someone else does it. In other words, that's a plan for anyone to help you fix that. You can take that plan and you can shop it around. And if it makes sense for us to work together, I will give you a set of options of different ways we can help you. One option will have really high involvement from you. That means we will give you most of the work and we'll do one piece, which means you have to train yourself, dedicate a resource, take some of our training, read a book, watch a video, whatever it is that you offer. Another one's going to have really low involvement where we sort of take care of it, most of it for you, we take it off your hands, and some option sort of in between. So you can have three choices with 3 prices and different levels of involvement. The good news is whatever you pay me for a diagnostic gets credited 100% to the option that you choose.
Yeah. So one of the things, Hector, just pausing out of the role play here, is exactly what's showing here, right? We've got, I'm sure many folks on this webinar today and those who will listen to this, a lot of people will email them or text them, hey, can we just do a quick call just to see if a diagnostic is really something that I need or not? And sometimes we kind of fall into that trap. So what happens? How would you handle that?
So is a pre-diagnostic pick your brain session.
Exactly.
Carlos, what is that quote? Pick your brain that you told me.
I was in another group, coaching group, and there was someone that brilliantly, in a thread, they were talking about going back and forth with the value pricing, and the client kept coming back, asking a quick question, and this person responded is, we have to make sure that if we allow our customers to pick our brain enough, eventually they end up picking our pockets.
Right. If you allow your customer to pick your brain enough, eventually they end up picking your pockets. Right. So that's a great quote. I couldn't use that as the answer. So I guess you let's do a role play really quick. I guess you're gonna be the customer and you're gonna ask me for the quick call or whatever.
Yeah. So Hector, I appreciate that you have a diagnostic, but maybe my situation, if I could just explain it to you, we can do a quick call to see if maybe a diagnostic is something that I need.
Sure. Our company policy is we don't start solving problems prior to getting paid. And the mere act of discovering your issue is the starting process of solving the problem, because the diagnosis itself is one of the most valuable pieces of the work. If you don't believe me, call any doctor that you know. Does any patient walk into a doctor's office and say, hey, I think my appendix needs to get out? And the doctor go, yeah, we do that. We make $10,000 with this. Let's do it. Appendix out. That wouldn't happen. That would be malpractice. Prescription with a diagnosis is malpractice. So, Mr. Customer, the reality is that there's value in the diagnosis, because through the diagnosis process, I'm going to ask you questions and dig deep enough to try to figure out if, and again, you have to value, you have to believe that there's value here. We're going to figure out if the angle that you're looking at the problem is the right angle that is revealing the real root cause of the problem. And the value of having a third party look at the problem and present it could reveal that on top of the problem, the pain point that you're having, there might be another underlying issue or ailment that's causing this specific issue. So we strongly believe that there's inherent value in the diagnostic, which is why we charge $500 for it. This is why we give a report for it. And look, I'm comfortable with you not wanting to move forward because there isn't a diagnostic. So I completely respect that. However, what I can do is I can send you via email a set of initial questions that I usually ask for customers like you with problems like yours. And with those answers, I will tell you if I am at least 95% confident that it makes sense for us to move forward. Because by principle, we don't take a diagnostic engagements unless we're at least 95% sure that we are a good fit to help you. Now, it's possible that we won't work together. Out of every 3 customers that give a quote to, 1 says yes. And I'm comfortable with that. I don't want to be the cheapest. I want to be the best. So if I can convince to you that I understand your problem and I will give you a price and you accept that, I will give you 100% of the diagnostic back. That's the reason why I do it. And out of courtesy, I will send you that email and you can send me those answers. And then I will tell you if, in my professional opinion, if it makes sense to do that. And I will ask you to trust me that I'm doing what I think, that I'm behaving professionally on making this assessment. So moving on to that. So Carlos, thank you. That's a good segue on that. There's a concept that blew my mind. When I say blew my mind, I mean blew my mind, which is called the Stan-Shi smile curve. Okay. The Stan-Shi smile curve, it's more of a manufacturing concept that talks about where the value is in any manufacturing process. Now, granted, accounting is not manufacturing, but a cleanup job is sort of kind of like manufacturing, like just the way we take it from R&D to figure out, how we're going to clean it up all the way to the financial statements. It's sort of like manufacturing, but, and I'll give you an example that's more sort of in line with the accounting profession. But what the smile curve says is that most of the value happens right at the beginning of the curve and at the end of the curve. That means most of the value happens when we first figure out what product we're going to build, all the way to satisfying our customers with warranty and customer service. So the actual production of the product is the lowest part of the value. It is the marketing and the brand and the creation of the right product, and at the end, the satisfied customer. In accounting terms, let's use a very typical example, which is converting QuickBooks Desktop to QuickBooks Online. Okay, we get this question all the time. It's a very common thing. People call me and says, hey, how much would you charge me to convert from QuickBooks Desktop to QuickBooks Online? I could give a fixed fee, or I could give a random fee. I can give an hourly fee. I could value price the whole thing. But at the end of the day, what I need to be cognizant on, that the only piece of value, or the most important piece of value, is that the customer has complete confidence in their new accounting operating system. Okay, the fact that it's QuickBooks Desktop to QuickBooks Online, and there's some things on transfer, and the features are different, and then there's adjustments in the journal entry, in the trial balance. All those things don't matter to the customer. What matters is, do I have complete confidence in my new operating accounting system? Now, to get there, there's a whole bunch of steps that we take. First, we figure out why they want to upgrade to QBO in the first place. Then we do a needs analysis to see what QuickBooks Desktop looks like. We might clean up Desktop and kind of give a list of things that they're going to lose in the process. We're going to do the cleanup work prior to the conversion because, garbage in, garbage out. Then we're going to make the conversion, make adjustments, actual cleanup work, cleaning up lists, cleaning up transactions, deleting things, adjusting things, re-reconciling accounts, showing a report of what happens post-conversion, choosing the right app for the operations, training and supporting the client. And at the end of the day, what the customer gets is, do I have confidence in my new accounting operating system? And the reason why this concept blew my mind is because the value's on the top, the effort it's in the bottom. And an hourly based business model person, a non-value driven person, an effort driven person only looks or focuses on how much the bottom is going to take and doesn't focus on what the true value is, the low-hanging fruit, which is this project worth doing? Is the proposed process or proposed project even going to get us in the desired outcome? And can we guarantee the outcome at the end? So all the value is at the very beginning and the end of the process, where all the effort it's in the bottom. So this is the perfect dichotomy of who are you? Are you a value-driven person that focuses on the top of the smile curve, or are you an effort-driven person, or a cost-cognizant person, which is focusing in the trough of the smile curve? So when I took the smile curve and used, a fairly potentially complex process like converting from QuickBooks Desktop to QuickBooks Online, and I go through this exercise, it holds true. It absolutely holds true. It absolutely holds true. Because at the end, if they don't trust the QBO system, it doesn't matter how great the process was. If they don't like it, if they don't like the way the invoices look like, because the end result is the customer needs to invoice the customer, and the invoice needs to be pretty. If they don't like it, doesn't matter how much work you put into the whole thing, the end result wasn't there. And the way we could have prevented this was with the diagnosis. So I would say most of the value is in the outcome, but in order to prevent a disastrous not being able to guarantee an outcome situation, we need the diagnostic and we need to charge for it. Okay, value pricing focuses on outcomes, which means what customers perceive to be the return on investments, where hourly billing focuses on efforts, which is what accountants perceive to be their cost. Newsflash, customers do not care about our costs, period. Okay, I'm gonna skip a couple of these. Like, these are really, really important slides, but there's one more big thing that we want to talk about. But long story short is, you've gotta charge for the diagnostic, because without the diagnostic, you don't know which direction you're gonna go to. And you could be efficient by starting on the work right away, because that's efficient. Customer says, hey, I need you to convert from QuickBooks Desktop to QuickBooks Online. You can be efficient, quote unquote, and say, give me the login, I'll get started, done. That's efficient. But being effective is doing the right thing. It makes no sense to start doing something efficiently if at the end we're doing in the wrong direction. It's like following the GPS's directions flawlessly, but you put the wrong address. So does it make sense? So efficiency is following the GPS directions flawlessly. Effectiveness is putting the right address. The diagnostic, which is that question, where are we going with this, is the only one that can lead us to effectiveness. So I put a polling question in my Facebook group, in the QB Power User Facebook group. I did it just a couple of days ago, and I wanted to kind of find out if our assessment, Carlos and I assessment of like what are the things that people need help with, and I basically asked my colleagues, and basically 33%, and this is over 200 answers already, 33% said that the price increase is the hardest thing to do. 16% was saying no to out of scope requests. 10% was charging for a diagnostic. Sorry, that erase that word by mistake. 9% is setting up a workflow management system, and 32% a whole bunch of other questions. So setting the pricing increase is the thing. So Carlos, we have about 22 minutes left. So you got a good 15 minutes to go over one specific subpart of selling the price increase you want to focus on. So I'm going to give you the floor.
Yeah. So continuing on the concept of the coming from the book, selling the price increase, after reading through it, these are the 4 biggest concepts that one must master, to effectively be able to communicate, deliver a price increase, and positively impact the outcomes to reduce the losing customers. And so the one concept that we thought of is having the conversation, which is great because when we looked at the poll earlier, we found that there was a high percentage of justifying the value, and then the other one being is having the language and the skill set. So what we thought is we took some of the concepts from the book, but we also made it more specific to the accounting industry. So we thought of what are some of the key things that you have to do prior to having the conversation with your customers about raising prices. So from the book, it tells us the objective of price increase conversation is to increase that probability that the customer accepts it, right? That's what we want. Minimize objections or any resentment that they feel towards you, and lower that probability of losing the customer. So it all begins with making sure that you select the right group of customers, right? These are maybe your low profit customers that that you need to raise their prices because you're doing a lot of work for them and you're not justifying the costs. Making sure that you do that analysis, make that business case, making sure that you're communicating at the right time. You're not going to randomly call them or randomly email them. Tomorrow, your price is going to change. So knowing how to prepare for the conversation, how to plant the right seeds before that meeting and that conversation. Also being prepared to anticipate what kind of objections or what kind of negotiation they're gonna jump into. Knowing the right communication channel, right? Do you communicate this in the form of an email, a text message? Do you have a phone call? Do you do it over Zoom? Do you meet with them in person? What the impact is of doing it in a different approach. Making sure that you are prepared, right? That you have the confidence, the right language, you have your business case, you are convinced that your value supports the justification of the price increase. And then the one that we're going to briefly discuss or kind of go more in depth is delivering the right message. So these were the biggest takeaways that we wanted to share with you. The first one is listing the time-consuming tasks for your customers, right? So when you're preparing to deliver the right message, is how do you justify? Well, it's really focusing on the pain. What is that customer pain that they have in why they hired you in the first place, which is what are the things that take them time and frustration to be able to complete that work, and why they decided to select you as someone to solve that problem for them. Hector, would you want to add anything on that first component?
So most importantly is you do not want to talk about the stuff that takes you a long time. So like you're saying, but you had 2 PayPal accounts and it takes me a long time to reconcile them, okay? No, that's not the approach. The approach is we to cover all your new PayPal accounts, which is something that's taking a significant amount of time away. We're saving a significant amount of time that you could be spending doing that. So again, it's not how long it took you to, take care of the bank statements that surprise you because you didn't talk about them originally, is how much time you saved for them. That flip the conversation, right? Because you do not want to talk, like you do not want to justify a price increase with righteousness because I deserve it, because I did more, because I worked harder, because you threw this boomerang at me, because you threw the curveball, because I had to absorb it, because I did the out of scope work and I didn't say anything. You cannot say those things. You have to talk about the time that you saved them. That's probably the most important piece.
And it's focusing on the facts, right? Not the emotional
Right.
outcome that it gives you, right? If it's out of scope. The next one is articulating the intangibles of the relationship. So that speaks more to what do you as the firm owner know about contextually about this relationship that gives you sort of that upper hand that saves them that time of frustration of having to explain their situation if they were to go to a different accountant, right? What were some major events that may have happened inside in their life that you know about, which helps you better service them, better serve them. Hector, I know that you've got a few examples of what those things could be and how important it is in articulating that in the conversation.
Yeah, this one comes up very often when you're talking about a price increase and customer comes back and says, well, we've been working together for 10 years and the work is getting easier and easier because you're getting to know me. You know my accounts. It takes you no time to do them. You understand me, my life, my goals. You can read between the lines. So if anything, the price should go down and not go up. And this piece, the intangibles, is the essential solution to that objection. So the objection to the customer is because you know me so well, because you can read between the lines, because you understand my motives, because you understand what I mean when I say the red car. You know what that means, where nobody else would know what that means, right? Or the big bucks, or the South location, or Mary's customer. Like all of these things have meanings behind the lines that somebody else brand new would have to spend a good 5-10 years again with the customer to learn. So the customer is trying to justify in their mind that because it's taking you because it's faster for you to do, because of these intangibles, you should charge less. It's really the opposite. You want to articulate that says, Mr. Customer, because we've been together for so long, my attention, focus, and emotions are so tied and intertwined with your account that I can afford to give your account more attention than anybody else could. So the quality of accounting work and the speed of accounting work is sort of like wine. When wine is aged and is known to be from a particular region, and the wine connoisseurs certify how good this particular wine is, it doesn't lose value over time. It increases value over time. So like wine, a good accountant increases in price or increases in value with age. And that's the part that you need to articulate, is the fact that I spent so much time with you and we spent so much time together and we've been dealing with so many issues together that I have the ability to dedicate time, focus, attention, and love to your account. And that's worth more, because Mr. Customer, you can start over with someone else and maybe they'll charge less, but they won't know you like I do. And me knowing you like I do, true, it allows me to do things faster. But when I do things faster, I give you better, faster answers, which is the next one. What is the impact of intangible terms? Sometimes I don't have to ask you things 2 times or 3 times like I used to do 10 years ago, because I understand from your first answer. Or there are many questions that I don't ask you because I don't need to ask you, because I see it on the bank statement and I know and I understand. I know you have a cottage in Barcelona and I know what the restaurant names in Barcelona look like. And I know that's a personal expense, or I know that's a business travel expense. I don't need to ask you what that is. I know it. So the impact of the intangible, the impact is really, there was a little space missing here. Sorry, guys. Is the impact, is the impact in tangible terms. So the impact in tangible terms is I will save you time and frustration by asking you less questions, being more direct, and us moving through it quicker, so I can free up my time to give you better advice, and you can free up your time to focus on your business, not in your accounting.
Yep.
So you want to go to the third
Yeah,
one?
then we have, obviously taking inventory of your track record. This is where you are going to articulate what is all of the success, what are the outcomes that you've delivered, talking about accuracy, timeliness, quality of service, right? Be able to talk about, what level of service you provide to the customer, because that helps you justify the price increase. Then anchoring your value versus the cost of having a competent internal resource. And I know, Hector, you're passionate about this, especially in the space that we're in, where it's hard to retain talent, and in addition to that, to develop good quality, competent talent to be able to deal with this. And I know that you have a great analogy about what successful businesses have internal, CFOs and all of that. Would you want to share a little bit more about it?
Yeah, so I think that every successful company in the world has a CFO, right? At least over $10 million in sales. Every successful company in the world strives for that, right? Like, no one started a business saying, I hope I can get from zero to whatever your goal is without a CFO, full-time internal CFO, without an internal controller, without an internal accounting team. What small business accountants, bookkeepers, and consultants and tax preparers are, we are the bridge to that. And many of our customers are going to stay small forever, and they will never have a CFO, a controller, a built-in accounting team. And we are the best bet for that. And we need to do a kick-butt job to provide that value for them. But all of our services need to be anchored against the cost of a competent CFO, which is who could potentially do the work that we're doing for them. We're just doing it in a part-time basis. So the ultimate anchor of value is that, Mr. Customer, to get someone like me to do everything that I do with the attention that I do it, you might need a full-time CFO at $150,000 a year minimum. Go to Indeed.com and watch how much they cost. And I would love to be the person that someday transitions you into that, shows that person everything that I've done, and helps a CFO hit the ground running after you transition from us to your internal financial team. But for now, this is what we do. This is what we can do for you. And we can do it at a fraction of a cost of a competent internal resource.
And Hector, I'll just add a quick point from Blair Enns, which talks about in his podcast, when the psychological impact of communicating loss aversion, right? A person is willing to make a decision 2 to 3 times more based on not wanting to lose an opportunity more than what they gain, right? And so being able to communicate and articulate, what are they going to lose if they switch, which talks about also the switching costs. It helps make the conversation even more impactful.
Exactly. All right, so let's go through all the next steps that I have in the slides. Again, I want you guys to download the slides. I want you guys to look at all the different resources that are there. These are essentially the books that have shaped my thinking, that helped add it to the conversation with myself about my mindset shift. There's links to all the books in there if you want to check them out. If you're a book reader, I would say check into that. I have another slide where we did the AltAccountant program. We didn't do it in a continuous coaching. We did it for a small group in 2019, for a small group in 2018, for a small group for 2020. We've done, and one for 2021. We've done this for 4 years, but we've done them with 4 groups, and it's always been a 6-week program. And here's 10-minute summaries of each of the sort of major lessons. So that gives you a good preview of what the AltAccountant program is as a whole, but there's value in all 5 of those videos. What Carlos and I are trying to do is we're trying to keep it more fluid, more open, to not just teach a concept, to like actually walk people through that concept. Okay. Also, I'm going to give you a special, it's called a gift per se. I'm working on an ebook, which is for the most part other people's content. It's called a questionable ebook, a compilation of questions, quotes, concepts to inspire accountants to have better conversations. It's still a work in progress. I'm still going through a couple of things. I basically compiled all quotes, questions, concepts that can help you have better conversations. If you go through it, if you go through all of them, you are really, really going to like, this could be a great cheat sheet. At some point when I completely finish it, which might be a couple of months, I'll take it down of Google Docs and I'll make it into a PDF. And I don't know if I'm going to sell it or collect people's emails for it or whatever. I don't know yet, but this is my attempt to have an ebook resource for accountants again, within this concept of having courageous, better conversations with customers. So definitely check that out. If you're a podcast person, search any of these podcasts. These are the podcasts that I listen to religiously, and they complement my thinking and the evolution of my thinking every day about value pricing, business models, anything else you can think of. And lastly, I'll make a quick pitch here. This will be the official pitch. If you like this concept, if you like the way Carlos and I teach, if you want to learn more, like just basically deepen it, because all the answers are in the books, in the podcast, in the ebook. I mean, the answers are there. We're not here to give any answers, okay? But we have this community that we created, and we're going to be building content on it. It's all going to be behind the paywall, which is called the AltAccountant Plus community. It's a subscription-based model. So, of course, we're dealing with subscription-based model. At least is one of the executions of it. We're going to be focusing on teaching live lessons in positioning, which means being able to say, I'm the X for Y that wants X, Z. That means I am the cloud cash flow consultant for growing dental practices. Like, to be able to articulate what your focus, your niche is, why you do what you do, and why customers should care, or that particular target customer should care about working for you. We're going to talk about productizing, which talks a lot about charging for a diagnostic fee. Productizing means selling your service as a product with a finite scope, and that's how I do it. My diagnostics are a productized service. Like our firm charges a standard $375 diagnostic fee for any tax client, QuickBooks client, whatever they want. And we have a particular process that we go through. It's productized, it's finite. We give the customer a report with our opinion, and then we give them $375 back to their services if they say yes. So we'll teach you that. We'll teach you innovation. Innovation basically means thinking differently, reframing things, creating new products and services. Practice management. Carlos is actually an expert in TaxDome. He actually implemented TaxDome in my practice. So we'll talk about workflow management and how to get things done and how to track things that are getting done. But most importantly, I want to help you, Carlos, and I want to help you transform your mindset into a value-driven mindset, so you can either value price or move to subscription services. The inaugural group is this ongoing membership, which is cancel anytime, money back guarantee if you don't like it. If you don't like it, you ask for a refund. We refund your last month. It officially starts October 18th. That's going to be the first lesson, and it will be ongoing. But immediately, as soon as you log in, there's a platform called Circle. We're going to start the conversation there. We're going to start adding resources there, but we're going to have our first official AltAccountant lecture, per se, on October 18th. You can sign up from now. There's a free trial until October 18th. So there's really, like, you go in there and you don't pay anything until October 8th. Well, really 30 days from now, it kicks in. As long as you use that promotional code FIRST40, you get 40% of lifetime. Carlos, can you make sure that coupon is active? Because we're supposed to get it activated. And we have a couple of minutes left. So I do have a couple of questions that I want to answer. I think, Carlos, while you do the coupon code, make sure that's working. Somebody asked me a question, which is, how do you guarantee compliance work? It's a really good question. So James is asking, what results do you guarantee for compliance work? So let's start with the context of what is compliance work. Compliance work means a tax return, right? So what results can you guarantee? Well, one of the results I can guarantee is, if you get an IRS letter, I guarantee that whatever the error says, none of it comes from preparer errors. So that's a guarantee. So if there's a preparer error, if the IRS says there's a preparer error, like they say you're missing a 1099 and you can prove that you sent me the 1099, that's a guarantee, right? So I guarantee that the tax return is free of preparer errors. And if there's any letters with preparer errors, I will respond to them. And if there's a fee because of a preparer error, I will pay the fee and the penalty. So that's one way you can guarantee compliance work. The other way you can guarantee compliance work is to say, look, I am so confident that this tax return is so airtight that if it gets audited, I guarantee that it's not going to be more of a 5% variance in a change if an audit comes through, and we can contractually guarantee anything above a 5% change in a tax return change, I will pay that fee. Okay. And hey, you got to take that risk. James, you got to take that risk. I know you're saying, whoa, really? You got to take that risk. But that risk comes with a premium. Okay. So most people's life insurances is $3 million. Right? It's like the average life insurance in our profession. Okay. An insurance company is willing to pay your family $3 million if you die. But out of $1 million that they write policies for, 3 die, 4 die. So that's how it works, right? We take a risk. We take a risk. And if you have enough clients that you're guaranteeing for, the law of the numbers say that one of your clients you're going to have to pay for. You're going to have to make true those guarantees. Sometimes you can't help it. And trust me, if you're going to guarantee that a customer's, if you are going to guarantee that a customer's change in a tax return won't be more than 5%, you're going to do the work much, much different, aren't you? Like if you know you're in the hook or you're on the hook for a potential error, you're going to scrutinize the heck out of it. It's just an idea. It's not the only way to do it. Another way you can guarantee is to say, look, because I know audits can happen and I can't tell you how the audit goes, the guarantee I will give you is that if an audit happens, I will give you 20 hours of audit representation. That's my guarantee. I don't know if it can happen, but that's part of the premium. And when you offer value pricing and you offer choices, that audit guard guarantee, it's only sort of in the largest option. So last question I'm going to answer here, because it's sort of a follow-up question, which I think is Alejandro's asking, how would you guarantee bookkeeping work? Well, I can guarantee you're going to have a P&L and balance sheet by October 15th every month, or by the third week of every month, if you send me all the reports by this day. So something like that, right? So you can guarantee those things. You can also guarantee that if a bank, attorney, and mortgage broker has questions, you will answer those questions. You will answer them quickly, and they will be satisfied with the answer. Doesn't mean they'll approve the loan, but they will be satisfied with the answer. That's the type of stuff that you can guarantee. Again, there's so many things we can discuss, and we kind of want to leave it to the AltAccountant program to again, I don't want to tease something. I don't want to not give you an answer. I'm just saying, we have to sort of discover more and more things about what you do, how you do them, and why you do them, to then wrap guarantees around that. So once again, if you want to learn more about this, if you want to deepen your knowledge, or at least if you want to, I'm not going to say deepen your knowledge. If you want to partner with Carlos and I through this process of self-transformation by using my experiences and Carlos's presentation and coaching skills as a partner to aid your self-transformation process with these concepts, join the AltAccountant program and community, and be amongst the first 40, so you get the 40% lifetime discount. So
Hector, when do we take down the coupon?
When the first 40 sign up.
Okay.
We together we will particularly draw the highest possible level of satisfaction around seeing stress and anxiety be reduced from this profession. That's our goal. No more stress and anxiety in this profession. That's what we want. All right, guys, thank you very much. We'll wrap it up. I'm going to email you guys the slides and a video recording of this. All right. All right. If you have any questions, just email me. So sorry, I should have done